We're good. We're good. Welcome back, everybody. Can we please stand for the pledge? Please remain standing, which we actually have a special event tonight. We have Mike Wassey, who's going to sing our national anthem for us. Take one. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Remove the flag. Remove the flag.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and ragged red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the
Wasn't that great or what?
That was amazing.
First item on our agenda tonight is swearing in of our new superintendent, Dr. Mark Ferris. Dr. Ferris.
Mark Ferris,
I, Mark Ferris,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and the Constitution of the State of New York.
and that I will faithfully discharge the
I
duties
will faithfully discharge the duties
as Superintendent of Sable Public Schools
as Superintendent of Sayville Public Schools
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
We were going to ask him to sing again tonight. I think the student took the cake.
Can I just make an observation? When we entered the superintendent hiring process, we just wanted to see bring us the best candidates. One of the things I just kind of want to point out in terms of history of Sable, this is the first superintendent we've hired that wasn't already a central officer for the administrator since 1986.
Yes.
I think says something nice about our culture that we came from within, but I think I'm just speaking for myself. I'm just very excited to have you here. Thank you.
Like on our agenda tonight is correspondence, and I don't see that we have any correspondence. We're going to move right on to Superintendents of Schools report, Dr. Mark Ferris.
So thank you very much, and I'm thrilled to be here and so grateful to have the opportunity to work in this community. I've been just spending the last 3 months getting to know people, learning about the culture, learning about the history, and this community is just absolutely outstanding. My favorite day by far was the first day of school, because that's when I got to go to every school and watch the kids. And you plan for 3 months getting ready for kids, but it's not the same until the spirit of the children enter the hallways and watching the teachers preparing and getting the kids into the classrooms and coming off the buses with smiles, and to do so in a more normal way than we've been able to do as educators for the last 2 years was special, and something I think we used to take for granted that we probably won't take for granted for a very long time. But the kids and the families here are wonderful. The teaching staff and the support staff has been outstanding. The security team is absolutely outstanding in terms of if you compare it to any other place you work. They're just so not only alert and protecting our kids, but they actually care about the kids and say hello to them and smile and talk to them as they come in. It's just a wonderful thing to see. So I'm really grateful for that, and I thank you for the opportunity. In terms of just the superintendent's report, every time I speak, we're going to kind of talk about the same themes, but kind of address the topics that we tend to be talking about. So again, we're going to be looking at these two visuals here aside from the Sable Public Schools banner, which is looking ahead to the future and setting a course for the future in terms of the creation of a 5-year strategic plan, but also a really sound vision for who are we as the Sable schools, what do we believe in as teachers, as educators, as families, as students, and what do we want for our children. And so I hope to spend the next 3 or 4 months really just learning about the culture, asking questions, and helping to synthesize information from all of you that will lead to a really clear vision, a consistent approach, and a belief system that we all can get behind and feel good about. And so we did this with our leadership team, and I was really proud of the cabinet who came up with these beliefs, which is that every child must be respected and valued. Each child's journey is unique. Our job is to ensure student success under all circumstances. The voices of our students, faculty, staff, and families matter to us. We are committed to learning, evolving, and growing as professionals, leaders, and educators, and it is our role to inspire and ignite a passion for learning throughout our school community. So that was our cabinet, and I've really enjoyed learning and growing with our cabinet over these last 3 months. I then had the opportunity to meet with our administrative team in the end of August, which hopefully in the future we will do in the beginning of July, so there's more time to flesh out our ideas. But I had a great time kind of just getting to spend with our principals and our directors, asking the same questions, which is basically, what do we value? What do we believe in? What are we great at? What does Sayville really do well for our students? And what are areas we need to work on most? And those are the same 3 questions we're going to ask everybody, which means the Board of Education, the teachers, the aides, the modelers, the security teams, the parents, the families, and use the answers to those questions to really shape our future together. And we came up with what we believed in as an admin team, which is very much aligned with the cabinet, which is we're child-centered. Every child has gifts, and it's our job to kind of unlock those gifts. We are committed to developing relationships that foster trust, safe spaces, and learning. And struggle is essential for growth. And I think those were really key themes that came up with our admin team. And I'm looking forward to doing the same kind of work with our teachers, because I think we're all here for the same reasons. And so if we could harness that and kind of row in the same direction and work together and learn to trust one another, I think there's nothing that we can't do here in Sayville that could be very special and just joyful as it has been over the years. So Superintendent's Conference Day was great. I had a really great time getting to know the faculty. I did a presentation on caring, learning, and inspiring, and I felt I didn't know how it was going to go, but I felt like I think it went really well. I shared some experiences of my own family, my camp experience, learning how to do a tug of war, and then a little bit about some heroes in my life, which was my father, Mr. Rogers, and Rocky Balboa. And I thought that Rocky and Mr. Rogers were 2 interesting characters to put next to each other. But it was a good opportunity for me to just feel out the staff and hopefully provide an opportunity for people to go back to their schools, remembering why they became teachers and feeling good about the work that we do together. The transition continued after the leadership retreat, Superintendent's Conference Day, on the first day of school. I got an opportunity to meet Lincoln, or Lightning the Lion, sorry, who was mad that he wasn't in the video that we made for baseball. And, I told him, don't worry, we'll get you in the next one. The board retreat is going to be on September 14th, and that is where our board is going to get together and do similar work that I've just described with the admin team, really kind of fostering among the board, what do you believe in, what do you want for our schools, and how do you wish to get there? And then my job is to facilitate, synthesize that information, and kind of work us on a path forward. So the thing that I'm going to kind of engage in over the next 3 months is something called 100 Days of Learning. It should take us roughly about 3 months, and I'm going to invite parents and teachers and administrators to join a research team and do some research on our district. The idea of the 100 Days of Learning is a collaborative research study of our schools. We're going to ask the questions that we want to know about our schools, use the data we collect from all these different groups to inform our work together, and then create a 5-year strategic plan. And the question is like, what is the Sayville learning experience for our kids? And what is great about it? And we want to make sure we continue to enhance that. And also what areas we want to improve upon or target to make better for our children. So, we use a research as a method of learning, and all voices in that research project matter. So we're going to include our faculty and staff, our families, and our leadership team. And those groups basically will, the volunteers will kind of do the work of creating surveys, running focus groups for different groups. But that's just one volunteer aspect of this. Everyone in the community participates in the focus groups and the surveys that we send out if they wish to. So there's different layers of how you can get involved. If you want to get really involved and give 20 hours of your time, then join the research team, and you can be part of creating the research and developing it and analyzing it and then presenting to the Board of Education. And if you want to have your voice matter but not get that deeply involved, then simply join a focus group and or complete a survey if one gets sent to you. So we basically create research questions, the things we want to understand about our schools. We create the methodology through survey, through focus groups, through other means. We collect the data. We spend time analyzing the data, trying to understand what it means. We then report our findings to the Board of Education. In the act of doing this, we're kind of modeling the things we believe are important in organizations, which is 1, taking time to learn about ourselves so we can grow. 2, using data to inform our decision-making. And 3, working in teams, because when people work in teams collaboratively, it enhances their performance. So these are well-known research practices that enhance culture in an organization, and I think it would do wonders for the Sable schools. And that helps us develop a 5-year strategic plan, which would include a focus on what's our instructional approach, what is our programming, and what kind of programming do we have, and do we want to continue to build on? What kind of environments do we want in our schools, not only in the larger spaces, but even in the classroom spaces from K through 12? And how do we budget appropriately to meet all the needs of our children? And then we would create 4 ongoing committees, which could include family members, teachers, administrators, to constantly monitor our progress on the 5-year plan over the next 5 years. And a 5-year plan that's really well designed is one in which it never ends. So after year 1, you redesign it, and now you have a new 5-year plan, and after year 2, you redesign it and have a new 5-year. So it's not like we create a 5-year plan and then in year 4 we're stuck doing something that is no longer relevant. You constantly assess and adjust and reevaluate, and then you do another big study after 5 years. Have we achieved all of our goals? And now where do we need to go from there? And in terms of achieving our vision and goals together, it's one thing to create a plan, to create a vision and a mission, but there's very clear specific pathways to make sure that your vision actually becomes a reality. So it starts with us creating a vision together, which includes all members of the learning community, so people buy into the vision because they have a voice in the creation of that vision. 2 is giving targeted professional development and providing professional development to staff, which is aligned only with that vision, and cutting out all nonsense and all other things that don't align with the vision, just not doing it and getting rid of it, because you can't add to teachers' plates unless you take things off of plates. So once we have a vision, you have to kind of design things only focused on that and kind of tear away everything else that gets in the way. And then doing a supervision and evaluation plan for everybody in the organization, which is aligned with the professional development that you're doing. So when teachers or staff are doing professional development, they know that it's kind of part of the vision, so it makes sense to them. And they aim for it because they know that's going to be part of their evaluation process. So it's connected. And that leads to learning going off the charts for teachers and adults in the organization, which then impacts our students greatly. So that's the kind of the 100 Days of Learning study that we're going to be doing over the next 3 months. So I'm going to be sending an email to parents and community members on Friday, inviting them to be part of the research team. There'll be an application process because I don't want parents to sign up and then realize, oh my God, this is 20 hours. I want them to know what they're getting into. And then also letting parents know that they'll have an opportunity to sign up for either a focus group and or a survey. No one's going to be turned away. Anyone who wants to be in the focus group, even if there's several hundred people, we'll just make several dozen focus groups because all of that data is relevant and matters. And every voice in the community matters in how we shape our vision. And if we don't do it in a genuine way, and it's done in a disingenuous way, like we pretend to listen, and then we create a plan that we want anyway, then no one's going to get behind it. So it has to be, so this board has to be okay with whatever the outcome of the study is, and that's our direction, even if you don't really like it, because otherwise no one's ever going to fill out a survey again, and no one's ever going to join a focus group again, because we'll have lost the trust of the people who we asked. So it requires a commitment on your part to say, what the data shows is what the data shows, and then we've got to go in that direction. So before I move on to the next part, is there any, so I'm going to send an email out to parents and teachers and staff on Friday, just inviting them to be part of the research team and kind of outlining where we're heading with this. And then in 2 or 3 weeks from then, we'll have our first meetings and we'll start to design our surveys. And so we'll start to see focus group and surveys, hopefully by the end of October, being put out to the community. And to, we want student voices involved in those surveys and focus groups, and teacher voices and administrative voices, as well as parents and community.
I just want to, I appreciate the integrity of your approach, because you say you want earnest communication. If you're turning students away and you're being selective on who you put into committees, it's hard to earn trust when you're, so I just appreciate that point. Thank you.
And it has to be that way, or else it's a waste of everyone's time.
Right.
Any other questions? Or-
That's good. I was going to say, make sure you have cookies. Set the bar.
I want to clarify.
Setting that bar.
Oh,
Well,
Okay.
I thought it was pretzels, but.
Milk? Cookies. Okay. So now when everyone goes to the cookies, if you notice there's cookies, you know what. Any other
You
questions?
better have cookies now, and just. No, we're good.
Okay, just want to bring up. Here we go. We're going to be having our Sable Strides color run on October 1st. I'm excited because it's my first color run, and I know to wear all white, right? And it looks like it's going to be a great day at the middle school. We also talked to the 5th precinct, so they're going to be present just to kind of help coordinate and organize. But it should be a really great day for one and all. Jillian, did you want to add anything?
Yeah, just last year, we had a great turnout for our families and our community organizations, which are gonna come back this year to help support, and we decided to move the date up. Last year, we did it towards the end of November, but we wanted to put it right in the beginning of October to be like a real kickoff to the year. So we're excited. The date is changed because our high school students have the SAT that morning, so we wanted to make sure they would be able to participate. So it's October 1st at 1:30 p.m.
Any questions about the color run? We're going to have Sam give us a facilities update. We had a lot of construction over the summer. I want to compliment Sam. I want to compliment Danny Castellano, who did an absolutely phenomenal job managing these projects. There was, from what I could see, dozens of projects, over 20 bathrooms, Sam will tell you, among other things. And it's not easy to get those things with contractors to get done on the proper days so that we can be open for school. But we did so beautifully. And I just want to thank Sam and his team and Danny, and let you kind of go through this with us.
Okay, do you want to control?
Yeah, sure.
So the first school will cover Sunrise Drive Elementary, as you'll see on the screen, and this presentation will be available on the website and on board docs. You see the 5 rooms where the ceilings were replaced from the original spline to the drop ceilings, which pretty much completes the ceiling project at Sunrise. Sink casework was installed in 5 additional rooms because the sink area, the casework was in pretty bad shape. We installed 2 bottle fill stations in the east and the west wing for each grade level to easily utilize, and also is very environmentally friendly. So now we have 3 in the building. The back path, if you remember, was pretty beat up. That has been paved and is now in extremely good shape. So walkers would arrive and dismiss in a much cleaner area. And we did have a Sable student, which is later on in the agenda, an Eagle Scout candidate who constructed and donated a Gaga pit for the Sunrise Elementary students.
I had to look it up. I had to look it up.
I had to look it up.
So did I.
What is it?
A Gaga pit is actually, it's in Hebrew, it's a touch, but it's basically it's kind of a dodgeball play pit, for the young kids.
Okay.
And the ball can't leave the ground. You have to roll it.
Oh, okay,
It's an agility game.
okay.
Some of the visuals regarding Sunrise, as you'll see, this is the before, during, and after what the paving looks like in the back where the walkers will be coming in. The ceilings that I mentioned before in construction and what they look like now, including some of the lighting upgrades that we had recently. The west wing and the east wing bottle fill stations,
Oh, nice.
and the Gaga pit. In Sable colors, rather. And in Lincoln Avenue, now Lincoln had a lot of construction. If you saw the building a week and a half ago, it was almost like, how is this going to open normally? But kudos to the custodial staff, not just the elementary buildings, but Lincoln did an amazing job. 26 bathrooms were completely gutted and remodeled. Anybody who had been to Lincoln or went through Lincoln knew that over time the bathrooms did take a beating, and it was time. The pictures that we're going to show represent the work that's been done and the upgrades, which are absolutely astounding. New ceiling and LED light fixtures were installed. All the hallway bathrooms were designed to be handicap accessible, so we're now in compliance, which is a very it's a very positive thing for the school, since we don't have to battle or argue with SCD as to handicap accessibility in the school. We're one step ahead. That's one step ahead. The nurse's office was completely remodeled as you go right in the building on the right-hand side, along with the social worker's office, to allow both the nurse and social worker to have a handicap accessible bathroom in sight. The district did feel it's essential that all the spaces in the building and the nurse's office maintain what I mentioned before, which is a handicap accessible bathroom and space. So there's some remaining punch list items that are to be completed, such as doors, which we are awaiting, and to show some visual representations. The before, as I said, if you've ever been or went through Lincoln, you see what it looked like and what it looks like now. These are the new bathrooms and their design. And the multi-stall bathrooms, this is the before, and that's during we did have the stalls, and they are installed, so they're not. And that's actually what they do look like with the stalls in place. And the dual mirrors that are in each sink
I went
station.
through before the stalls went, and I said, I'm gonna put stalls on.
That was Dr. Ferris's first introduction, saying non-stall bathrooms. And to show some of the construction in progress, what the conditions were before and what they do look like now. Nice. So kudos to everybody involved, including the staffs and the contractors. And they were able to do it in the span of just about 2 months. And the nurse's office was, again, if you walked in, there was a wall, it was taken down. There was a new metal stanchion and wall put in, as you see on the right. And on the next slide should show the construction in progress, again, what it looked like, and also the bathroom in there and what it looks like now.
Oh, nice.
Our completely renovated nurse's office and station for the students. We had some valve replacements to avoid leaks and also deterioration over time, as you see what it looks like. Cherry Avenue, new doors and hardware. They're on order, but they will be coming in for the kindergarten wing and the main hallway. And if you recall, we did some kindergarten wing work towards the end of the school year. The copy room floor was abated and replaced with new flooring. The music room carpet was also replaced and now matches the 2 other elementary music classrooms, so they all look the same, so there's no differences. And the corridors were all painted, and the new single color replaced the previous 2-tone. When I went to Lincoln on Tuesday, one of the remarks I made to Dr. Ryan and others was how bright the hallways looked with the paint job that they completed. So again, kudos to the staff and everybody involved. Just to kind of give a visual representation, again, the door that is on order being replaced, that is what it looks like now, and then the before and after on the copy room floor over there. At the middle school south parking lot was repaved. That is actually a project we started immediately after graduation, along with some cement work to repair the ADA ramps over by the pool area by that first bus loop as you make a right off Johnson Avenue. Room 234 abated and followed with replacing floor tile with a vinyl composite tile, which is the VCT that I mentioned earlier. The big one that's coming up, the tennis court, which I'm sure many have seen is not in the best of conditions, is set to be updated with a synthetic turf court. That's not going to affect, by the way, how the ball bounces. And it's not the one at the US Open. I did look that up. But it is slated to begin September 19th. We did have a couple of delays with delivery and the weather over the last few days, but it will take about 5 days to complete. It will be a brand new tennis court at the middle school, which will be the envy of the county, because I don't think there are any other schools that have a tennis court of sorts in Suffolk County. The wall, as you are coming south on Johnson Avenue, was also painted, and Dr. Cox and Dr. Ferris are in discussions to discuss with the company that will brand the wall with a Sable logo. And the pool was professionally washed by an outside vendor recently, which will show in order to keep it clean and have a nicer look. And the And
Can
you
I
see the
ask
before and
something?
after.
Can I ask something about the pool?
Sure.
What about the temperature in the pool? You know how that's always been.
Yes, last I heard it was actually stabilized. The other thing I've been working on for the last, I don't know, especially this week, has been the HVAC unit. We've had quite a bit of progress, thankfully.
Okay, good, thank you.
The paving at the middle school, again, as the weather changes, it freezes, contracts, potholes and cracks happen. So we felt it was necessary, and also to avoid any sort of accidents with vehicles or with students and staff. As you see on the right, this is what it does look like now, and you can see it glaring off Johnson Avenue as you're driving toward the north.
So much better.
Some of the new flooring, room 234, which is a pretty large room, as you see. And middle school pool, that is not doctored or edited, that is actually a different pool list, actually. The one on the right, that is. And then the tennis courts, this is the before shots. Hopefully by the October 6th board meeting, we will have the after shots of that, but just to kind of give a visual representation of what the condition of the courts are now. And I can't tell you the last time they were updated, but it's been an extremely long time. And we determined that resurfacing or repaving would not be efficient at this point. Sable High School, the ongoing spline ceiling replacement project was completed with minimal punch list items remaining. The masonry sets by the athletic office toward the student parking lot. Also after graduation, demolished, replaced, health and safety concerns. It was in bad shape, and God forbid somebody falls on there, but it is, you'll see, in much better condition. The gym lighting was replaced with new LED fixtures, and there is a rebate pending from our power company, which will defray some of the costs. Room 204, there was an asbestos tile abated and replaced with a new VCT floor. The athletic director's office, new paint, new flooring, definitely a fresh look in there. And the path behind the school leading to Cherry Avenue, also similar condition to Sunrise, was replaced and paved. To give a visual representation again, what the ceilings look like now and the brightness within the classrooms. The masonry steps, this is the before, and that is the after. So you see what our vision, what our goal was with replacing them. And with the high school gym, if you remember, this has been a multi-phase project. It was brought up several months ago. The last item that we were waiting on were the fixtures, which did come in. So you see that the brightness is different, the placement is different. Also paint coats throughout the gymnasium, and also some cleaning of the floors and some modifications to the gym floor to also minimize some of the risks with falling, tripping, and whatnot. We're also done over the summer, taking out in particular some of the electrical outlets on both sides. Before, you see what the before was and what it looks like now. Again, another very conducive area for learning and for students. And Dr. Cox's main office and suite, which is the athletic director's office. And the path in the back, we do have a Google map showing where it extended to. And if you do zoom in on any of the slides, you do see the condition it was in, and this is what it does look like now. And we're also discussing what we could do on the edging as well at some point. Administrative updates, we've switched over to a new software system called Master Library for work orders, which will be utilized by both facilities and tech departments. So we do expect a transition, not overnight, but within the next year, in which it will be used solely for scheduling all of our events and projects. It'll help streamline and digitize the use of facilities and also prevent any sort of conflicts within the calendar. And the PA front ends were replaced in all 5 buildings. They're functioning. We do have some minor lingering issues with volume and dialing, but nothing that affects their functionality. And we hope that will be completed within the next week.
Excellent. Yeah, it's done. Beautiful.
Any questions for Sam about the construction?
I mean, I just want to say, I guess this is part of our strategy of trying to do, what we can in the regular budget, rather than letting things deteriorate and have to do a major bond or something.
Yeah, and
Funding wise.
yes, if you recall, we do have a capital project that was approved separately as a bond issue in May, which is the reskinning of the roofs, which we're still in the planning phases of that, but embedded in the budget and long before me were capital lines, transfer to capital lines to address items such as bathrooms, tennis courts, flooring, etc. Rather than down the line taking out a large budget, which would adversely affect a lot of the finances and also timing as well.
And I want to say, if you do a good job with your capital projects, then You
minimize.
you don't negate the need for a bond when you have to redo a roof or boiler, but you certainly minimize how big the bond has to be and those things.
Yeah.
I'd be remiss also that, with Danny and his team, one of the eyes that they have is that, what is the space going to look like that will positively affect, the students, the staff, the learning environment, et cetera. It's not just putting something for the sake of something or replacing it, but they do keep that in mind. And, again, a testament to Danny and the staff.
And if you could also just touch, because I know we're approving some work orders with the bathrooms, the reason for that increase.
Yes, initially there were 21. There were 5 additional bathrooms that were picked up later in the process that we said, let's get these done now. So that the number went up to 26 total bathrooms. Slightly above, but it's still going to be fully aidable by the state within the parameters.
That's very good.
I'm going to ask Jillian just to give you an update on the True Place Company and just what's going on with that.
I just wanted to acknowledge John and Danny Robel. They own a store in town called the True Place Company, and they recently delivered vouchers to each of our elementary school buildings. And basically, it's for families in need. They get a voucher and they can go to Stride Right in town also and get a free pair of shoes for the new school year. So I just wanted to acknowledge
Very
that. That was
Very
very nice.
What was the name? I'm sorry.
It's the True Place Company, and it's on Main Street in town, and John and Danny Robel. So they reached out and they said they wanted to give back, so they dropped off the vouchers and we distributed them to the social workers at the elementary school.
Very good.
What's it called? A True Place?
True Place Company, it's a renovation company.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
So I just wanted to thank them publicly for
Yes.
that.
And
Do our minutes reflect that?
Good.
Sam was going to just update us on something that happened with the tax rate structure and how the tax rate's been set. And it might be confusing, so I thought it would be important that you just kind of give everyone an update.
Sure. So at this meeting annually is when the Board of Education adopts the tax rate. Around this time, we receive our final tax rate or assessed valuation from the town of Islip, and we see where it lands to where we estimated come budget time. Again, the main elements that we wait for the assessed valuation and base allocation of the properties. And just to give a brief explanation, there's the homestead and then there's the non-homestead rate. The homestead rate are the residential. The non-homestead rate is the commercial business properties within the community. And to give an idea, we'll see the actual numbers. It's about a 75-25 split. So for all of the Sable School District, about 75% are residential properties and just under about 25% are commercial business properties.
And just to clarify for everyone in the room, that means that 75% of our revenue comes from families and homes, and 25% of our revenue comes from local businesses and organizations that are not homes.
There's just one. This one, the setting the tax rate.
I don't know. I didn't have it here.
It's a-
Yeah,
it's in the, formula.
Yes.
So this one, show.
You don't have to jump into that.
So as I mentioned with the assessed valuation, value of taxable residential properties within the district. And as you see, for the total in the community, it actually decreased by a total of just under $437,000. However, there's an interesting split. The homestead, the residential assessed value increased by $772,000, and the non-homestead, the business, actually decreased by almost $1.2 million. So there was a net loss in the assessed valuation, but a very uneven loss, so to speak. Now, with respect to the base allocations, again, this is the portions of businesses versus residential within the community. You see that the homestead rate decreased slightly, but the non-homestead increased slightly. At the end, they both equal 0, but the 75 and 25 split is what I mentioned earlier. There's a shift in values from the homestead rate to the non-homestead. This has a positive effect on the residential, but not on the non-homestead rate, as we'll see. So based on the numbers provided by the town of Islip, what happens to the tax rate by applying the assessed valuation in which there's a shift towards the residential, but a decrease, the 1.2 million decrease towards the non-homestead. During budget time, if you recall, we said to the community, our projected tax increase is 1.72% based on a conservative estimate using last year's projections. At the time, come September, when we received the new projections, and again, I would like to point out that these assessment values are not controlled by the school district. They are controlled solely by the town of Islip. We receive these numbers and we input them to provide a tax rate for the community. The proposed actual homestead tax rate, the residential, would actually be a negative 0.12. So at the time when we said we would be increasing taxes by 1.72%, should the board adopt the tax rate, it would actually be a decrease of about 1/10 of a point. However, for the non-homestead, due to the shift in valuation, it actually would go to 9.46%, which is a stifling number. And again, it is based on several factors taken into consideration by the town of Islip, which include businesses that have closed down, patterns in which the non-homestead rate has decreased over time, valuation of properties, etc.
So just to clarify, for the residential people, their tax rate, their taxes that they will pay will actually go down, but for a local business person, their tax rate is going up.
That's correct.
What's a business,
I almost
business
understand.
property owner?
Business property.
Property owner.
So commercial property in Sable is actually going up, not the business itself.
Correct.
The property owner is.
Yes, the actual owner of the buildings or the property itself.
Would that include,
Families is
I'm sorry, would that
going
include the
Correct.
apartment complexes? That's a property owner? Or is it,
Yes, it would be the apartment complex, whoever owns it, however they determine the tax increase or dealing with the tax increase would be among that.
or other commercial businesses?
That's correct, because those are not on a pilot. Those are actually on the tax roll. There's only one property in the district that's on a pilot, which is the Bristol.
With the exception of the Bristol?
Yeah.
Yes, that's the only one. The others are, including the property, apartment buildings. are
How
on
many
the
years
tax roll.
left on that?
Yeah, I was gonna ask that question. How many years are left on the Bristol?
I think 6 or 7. I have to double check.
But then they can renew it again.
Yes, they can actually renew it at any time. It doesn't have to wait till expiration. They can come, 5, 6 plus years and just apply for renewal and it would be.
So the homeowners should be happy.
The homeowners are seeing a reduction from what was proposed at the time, yes.
So for the business, it's the landlord business, the business landlords. It's an increase of 9.5% almost, and that's a big number.
That's significant.
The owners
Yeah.
of the property will see that increase, yes.
And I know Town of Islip is the one who determines that. What would make, what affects that rate? Like, what would make that go so high?
It's a combination of businesses and properties that either have left, have not paid,
Sometimes it's just a shift.
a shift in market value of the property itself. Those are the main factors that they would take into consideration when making that assessment. Part of it is also, over the last 6 years or so, there's been a consistent decline in the tax rate, at least in Sayville, for the non-homestead rate.
Yes.
The burden was in the direction of the homestead, the residential rate. This is the first time in 7 years that the course has been reversed and now the burden has shifted back. Now, it's no justification, it's only an explanation of what's happened with respect to the actual valuation of non-homestead properties. It went down, 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 which means the tax rates were either flat or low, whatnot, and all of a sudden it has this spike. That's really up to those that are in the assessor's office making those determinations.
And the assessor's office is one who's really responsible for setting the tax rate.
Yes, and they're the ones that send us the documentation. Once we put it into our numbers, that's what we come up
For
with.
many, many years, the homestead was higher than the non-homestead.
Yes,
Many years.
that's correct.
Yeah, I was gonna talk about this on the board discussion, but it may be a good idea for the board and the business office, as well as the superintendent, write a letter to the assessor's office, as well as the town supervisor and the town council saying, you really need to take a better look at how you're doing these assessments, because it really seems like it's an unfair shift to business owners who are picking up a large portion of the taxes, especially the businesses in town that the buildings that have supported our district year after year after year. boost the clubs up, PTAs, et cetera. So I think it's important that we do write a letter, strongly worded letter, say, listen, okay, it's during these economic times, it's really ridiculous that you put this type of a shift on this community.
Yeah.
And the community has always supported our budget year after year after year. It's frankly, I think it's unfair.
John, I have to somewhat, of course, I have to disagree a little.
Well, it's only because
No,
it's
it's just
John.
Phil Ebert.
No, because I agree with one thing, they have to look at the way they assess it. Because for many, many years, as I said, the tax rate for the non-homestead was going down and we were going up, 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 up. Now, it's reversing. I think they have to assess the way they evaluate the whole
And I
thing.
agree with you, but we've never seen a shift of this magnitude.
Oh, yes, we have.
No, we've never seen a 10% difference.
Okay.
And it's,
will prove
and
it.
also, it makes me suspicious, like, is the town doing this assessment correctly every year?
Yeah,
Or is
I
this like
think
a
it has
cleanup
to
for
be.
the last 4 years?
I think
and-
they're doing
Yeah,
it
I
really
can,
nice.
I can say I went back a few years earlier today to see what the values were in terms of the non-homestead rate, and we saw rates about -1.5, -2.34, so on and so forth. Cumulatively, and don't hold me to this yet, it may add to an 8, 9, 10% cumulative over those 4 or 5 years. Regardless, any sort of shift or downward trajectory was relatively small in comparison to the shock, which is on the screen here.
But again, in years past, we were also able to shift some of it off of homestead to non-homestead and vice versa.
Yes, yes.
Unfortunately now, because due to the
Tax cap.
tax cap and the restrictions on the tax cap, we can't. Again, I'll say what I said earlier, it's like, I think the board should write a letter to the assessor's office, that says, really need to take a closer look at how you're doing your assessments.
I'm glad you brought that point up for another reason. Yes, the board and the district did allocate money that alleviated the burden, but also at the same time to maintain the tax levy, the tax rate that was discussed at those respective budget times. We're in a position because of the tax cap this year, due to all the factors we discussed, that appropriating any money to alleviate that automatically puts us in a position where we would exceed the tax cap after the fact. This is just the calculations that I have to go through and submit to the town of Iceland. Doing that opens up a whole nother set of problems for the community and the district. So we're kind of in a boxed in scenario where if we don't want to bust the tax cap because we didn't propose anything greater than the 61,833,000 number on the screen, but at the same time, to maintain the level that we're proposing for the homestead, in order to maintain that tax levy, this is the fortunate and unfortunate scenario ahead.
Listen, I think it's great that the resident, the non-commercial homeowners, the homeowners are seeing a reduction in taxes, but again, I have some concern about the business owner and the business properties in this community picking up.
So this is it, and I don't. and
A large portion,
That's
sorry,
22.
a large portion of the tax burden.
Sorry, John. This is totally within the jurisdiction and the authority and the decision-making of the town. There's not like a federal kind of financial calculus. There's not a state financial calculus. This was a decision made by the town.
Yeah, so the Office of Real Property Tax Services asks us for our tax numbers that are provided by the town. So the town does the assessment, the town does, provides us the values. We take that data and input it into our calculations to get those numbers there. And again, to maintain the tax levy that the community voted on, which was at the limit, by the way, I should mention. The homestead tax rate would go down by -0.212, but the non-homestead would go up by nearly 9.5%. Any sort of shift by using some fund balance or any sort of state aid shift, which was done in previous years, would ultimately exceed the tax cap, which is something the community did not approve because it was never put forward that it would exceed that number.
I think they have to change the way the formula is outdated. The way they do their calculations is outdated. I think they have to look at that, but.
Can we get some consensus from the boards for possibly sending a letter? to the
Yeah,
assessor's
I'd like
office?
it
Very much in favor.
Yeah, I agree that it has to be,
You could maybe
Yeah.
draft, go with.
Dr. Farrell.
Yeah, we'll draft a letter and we'll.
yeah, just
Show
that
it to
their
you.
formula is outdated, because either we're getting it harder than we anticipated, or they're non-homestead. It should be, there should be something equal.
This just strikes me as like a political thing. Like, I'm
It
candid,
is.
like, you know,
Yeah.
it's, you know, you're gonna say, and I lowered the tax rate to homeowners. I just find that kind of crude. Like, we should be balancing everybody's interests.
Very
You know what I
true.
mean?
I also think the town controls the zoning and what can open and what can't open, and when they slow things down or speed them up, that has a major effect on.
That's a
the
whole
number
different
of businesses.
discussion.
It
about
is
what
a
the town
different
can
one, but it's
open, what they
connected in
cannot
many
open.
ways.
It is good.
Certainly Starbucks value increased because they have a drive-through now, which we
they
certainly
don't.
on committee members opposed, so it's
I should also mention that, again, when we developed the budget, we used last year's numbers because those are the best numbers available. And trying to estimate what the homestead versus the non-homestead, not knowing what the town of Ice or any town is, you know, projecting or has even started is futile. And it's a common practice that we've done in the district year after year.
this is
Yeah,
sticker
that's-
shock.
that's
From
no,
March through September, 6-month period, we've all seen what's happened with the real estate markets, with the economy, and obviously now with valuations, which I'm sure were part of the, you know, calculations and the thought processes that went into this. But, you know, as mentioned before and recommended, Dr. Preston, I can draft something
That would be
to,
appreciated.
to that.
Thank you.
Anything else? Good. So that's the, you know, the gist of our report.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Ferris. Let's give Dr. Ferris a round of applause for his first official. Next on our agenda is Board of Education discussion. We have 2 items, upcoming building visits. I believe everyone has a schedule, but the building visits will be. And I think we have all the buildings covered, correct? And next item on the agenda is not to Suffolk School Board's annual resolutions meeting on the 28th. If anyone's interested in going, please let Julie know that you'll be attending. I do know we do have a resolutions up for possible adoption by National Suffolk School Boards as well as New York State School Boards Association. So please come on down. I don't know if we have a voting delegate yet. Dr. Birch, I think you're gonna vote for on behalf of the district. Thank you. That's all I have, other than I think I attended the opening day, the whole ceremony, and I want to compliment on the staff. Welcome back, everybody, and certainly want to compliment on Dr. Ferris's presentation, particularly his singing and dancing. I thought you're right, there was no dancing.
Next time.
Next time, and great job, great opening day. That's all I have.
There was one other thing I wanted to bring up. On September 21st, it's International Peace Day, or I should say World Peace Day. It's an event that comes every year. Everybody comes together. And I would like to let you know that there's someone in town who has done this many, many years. We have a whole process down at the
Rotary Park.
the what park?
Rotary.
Rotary Park, excuse me. And it's a very nice event. We have kids speaking. It's wonderful if anybody can make it. It's on the 21st. Also that I don't think there's anybody, it's not a political anything. I don't think anybody would be opposed to peace. It's a very, very nice thing. I also would like the board to agree to we have peace poles in every one of our buildings. I would like a peace pole put here. They have suggested that they will buy it and put it in for us if we all agree that that would be done well. There was a whole bunch of other things I wanted to say and they went out of my mind. But I did give you amazing that it went out of my mind. I did give Julie or Dr.
Yeah, we're
Ferris
gonna make some copies for you.
copies for everybody for what International Peace Day is.
And related to Maureen, we're both, like, I spoke at it last year, there's a lot of people that speak, but the
Oh, I
purpose
know
of it
it
is, you know, one of the things you can do is become an international city of peace.
That's what I forgot. to
International, I'm
mention.
sorry.
An international city of peace, and that's a
Yeah.
designation that there has to be a committee in the community, you have to apply for it. One of the things in speaking with the leaders, I've known a few of them over the years, including the one that spearheaded the Patchogue effort. One of the biggest groups that supports it usually in most communities throughout the country are veterans associations. Because they fight for peace. I think people kind of get lost sometimes, and that really is the purpose for the service.
Yes.
So they said if there's any, like the way to really consider it as a community is to reach out to your veteran groups, your VFW, your Legion, you know what I mean? Because they are often the biggest supporters of peace.
And that
in
is
the
one of,
community.
the things I wanted to mention. I would like us, Sayville, to become a city of peace. I know James has more information on how to become it. I also, in the information I have somewhere, that we can form a committee and it shows what it is and where it goes and what it means. It's important. And, you know, it's not, it is definitely not a political thing because people have asked me that all the time. But it's really what you stand for and what you'd like. As strides, we strive to make sure children are treated, everybody's treated equally. And I think we as Sable, as a community, should really become a city of peace. That's my
Okay.
feeling.
Do we need to have a resolution?
Oh, yeah, do we need a resolution for
I
that?
don't think we do. We just,
No, say, we agree.
is the board okay with the?
Can we go around?
Well, I mean, what's the proposal?
I gave them the criteria. It's
Yeah.
to become a city of peace, there's certain criteria that you have to have. We have a lot of it being our peace polls. I don't have the information in front of me. I should have kept one of the things.
I think what Maureen was asking for the right is a
Yes.
peace poll at district office. That's
At
what you're
district
saying?
office, and that we should consider a city of peace. Maybe we'll get the information, give it to everybody.
Why don't we get the
And
information,
vote
give it to
next
everyone,
week.
right?
Yeah.
Discuss it.
Yeah.
Yes, and discuss it next week. Okay,
Make sure
but
everyone gets the-
yeah, the peace poll, we could vote on that tonight, right?
Why don't we take the
Get the
whole
information.
package together,
Yeah.
get
I don't think,
everything,
I don't think it'd be
That's the
objective. It's
question.
just,
then we'll get a definition of what exactly,
Yeah.
what we want to
Why
do,
we
have it, and then you guys can make it.
Neon
We have
sign,
them,
so-
we
yeah,
have,
no,
Did it blink, right?
we have them in every one of our schools,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah.
I don't think.
I just, maybe I missed it, because on you had the district safety plan.
Oh.
Did you mention?
Yeah, that was supposed to be a executive session
Okay.
discussion because it was dealing with safety.
Okay,
So,
okay. I didn't know if something was published or something.
I think- No, it should be, that was an executive session.
Okay. And in the news, so it was, districts are being targeted for ransom. And no, Wilson's, he's not here, but I'm sure like with BOCES, whatever, everything's up to date with that.
Yeah, not just up to date, but there's certain steps that districts can take to kind of do everything possible to avoid that. I think that there are things in place, especially just using cloud services as much as possible. But Sam, do you want to speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, Will, first of all, is pretty up to date, to say the least, on any security measures and also of any breaches that occur. And so I know it's happened in the past, and we can also schedule mock attacks as well to see what kind of holes and penetrations are in the system, and also if there are any hatches that have been circumvented, in other districts, or any sort of weaknesses we identify.
One of the good things that has come out of some of these horrible attacks, and I know that there are many districts who have been attacked and mentioned, is that BOCES has been involved with kind of working with school districts to kind of shore up the defenses. And with each attack that comes, we learn a lot and then apply that to other districts. So luckily, we weren't one of the early districts that hit, and we can take what they learned from that experience and make sure.
And our hosting is off-site, so the risk immediately to the district is not as severe.
Okay. And then the other topic is as far as attachments to the agenda items, I guess we need to come to a consensus and decide, what we want to, what are we compliant with what we're putting on the agenda? Because I saw today still the agenda didn't have many attachments to it.
So,
well, I've stood on this for a lot of times. I think we need to attach as much information as possible. I certainly think the community does need to know what our budgetary transfers are. I certainly think the community needs to know what our RIOs are. I certainly think the community knows as much information as possible. And again, I certainly like to see the contract attached, and I only get to see the executive content. right, I don't get to see what the community sees, but certainly the public needs to know whether this is going to compete with Pizza Network, or we're getting it from Domino's. They should really see that contract. I mean, we've talked about open communication and transparency. I think we need to continue to make more improvements with that, in particular, how our community views our agenda. I think we have fallen short, and I like to see it improved. It's that simple. It's community members have asked, and if we should, and community members have made a lot of good points of what should be there. And we know what shouldn't be there. We're certainly not going to put the private information for individuals. And if there's concern about putting employee's name, do what we do with special ed. Take the employee's name off and put an employee number. And this way we know we're hiring a social studies teacher at $20,000. Yeah, not that we're hiring social studies teachers at $20,000. So, and that's my opinion. I feel very extremely strongly about it. So it's,
So-
I'd like to see what we're gonna do.
Yeah, so to that point, I went and did a little snooping in some other districts and pulled up their board doc links. And the things that you are talking about seem to be what the common practice is. Those links and transfers and hires and those things seem to be the common practice. So
Sable
I
is
would
unique,
support
but we
that.
shouldn't be unique in this matter.
Yeah, I think that communication and transparency is important.
And listen, we've spoken around this table, especially frequently, about open communication, more transparency. And I think we need to make this improvement. We need to make it as soon as possible, instead of, keep on kicking that can down the road, but it's not gonna get it. It's just gonna delay something that's gonna be inevitable anyway, so.
And I think one of the things I wanted to do is when we have our board retreat, talk about the difference between a planning session and a business meeting. And I think many districts went through gyrations of the planning meeting becomes a business meeting, and then there's two business meetings in a month, when really it should be one meeting, a planning meeting, where we're getting a presentation, where we're going over content, where we're discussing items, where we're having conversation about the decisions that we're making, and then a business meeting. And then the business meeting is more of all the things we discussed at the planning session coming to fruition, and then being voted on and approved. And so I would say that the business meeting is the one where those documents that you're talking about should be posted and presented well in advance. But the planning session shouldn't be really that same type of.
Yeah,
So if we differentiate, it might be easier to just kind of make it clear to everyone, this is what a planning session is, and this is what we do as planning sessions. And then at the business meeting, these are the items that we're voting on and approving, and those things are all included in advance on the board docs.
well, that's the way this started, was, this was a workshop meeting where we would just figure out really what we wanted to do and how to move forward and put things on the agenda and. as you
There's
said,
always unexpected changes to
Yeah.
things. A
exactly.
good example would be some of the change orders
Yeah.
that we have
Yeah,
attached. At the
exactly.
workshop meeting, we may not see the change
Yeah.
order, but again, I don't know, I haven't gone on to the public site to see what's attached for the change orders and what the public is seeing for the change orders, but again, we're spending additional funds. The community should know that we're putting different types of money into different types of work, and what that work is. And that's what they elected us to be here for, to be transparent as possible. I'll stand on that for as long as I'm on the board.
Okay.
Sounds good. So again, Sam and I will talk tomorrow with Pete and the rest of the team.
Okay.
And then we'll come back to you when we have the board retreat.
Okay.
With some
Sounds like a
proposed approach to this.
Sounds good.
Any other board items for discussion?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, I also was at the first day of school, and the opening day, and the feeling of excitement and refreshment and normalcy was just absolutely intoxicating. I also attended Dr. Cox's presentation to the parents of the athletes. I thought that was really well received, really informative, and I want to thank you for that. And I especially liked I'm going to call it the wrong thing. What was it, Morgan's message. They talked about the mental health of athletes. And I will just say, I know Kelly was there as well, but a parent of an injured athlete right now, that the mental health piece for that is really huge. And I know we had a follow-up conversation about what does support for that look like. So I think that it was a really well-received presentation, and I like the direction that it's going. Thank you.
I'll echo that too. It's good to see the whole community. There seems to be a positive energy.
Yes.
And I think the parents, after the long hot summer, were eager for kids to go back.
In July.
So kudos to everybody that got that done. It was no easy thing.
Okay, anything else? Okay, great. We're gonna open up the public session right now. Can I see a show of hands who would like to publicly speak to an idea? How much longer to, okay. I'm gonna read a statement. The Board of Education and administrators listen carefully to what members of our community have to say. We follow regulations specified by law and policy as we encourage our community members to offer public comment at Board of Education meetings. The Board of Education will present anyone who participates in public session demonstrate civility as they address the board and community. One, the Board of Education are held in public view, giving the public the opportunity to watch and listen to the proceedings of the board. In these meetings, the district staff updates the board on matters pertaining to the school district. The board may be required to take action on matters related to district operations. Board policy 1230 prescribes the opportunity for period public comment during the meetings. With that in mind, we offer a brief word on parameters of public comment. 30 minutes will be set aside, and I don't think we're going to need 30 minutes tonight. For comments to the board reserves the right to limit public participation in any case or to the extent maximum comment period deems necessary. Questions and comments by the public are limited to 3 minutes per person. Speakers are asked to identify themselves and/or the group they represent. Speakers should conduct themselves in a civil manner and direct their comments to the board. The board is not permitted discussion involving individual personnel, students, or community members. Thank you. If you don't mind, first community member, want to just stand, just step up to the podium, if you will.
Sure, I'll be quick. I'll be super quick. I just want to speak on something that was said today. First of all, I think you knocked your thing down, so I don't know your last name, so I don't want to call you Dr. Sam, but I just.
Dr. Sam's cool.
So, I've listened to you speak now for 3 months, and you come off as extremely knowledgeable. So I actually feel, confident in your ability to do your job at a high level. So if I say anything right now, just correct me if I'm wrong. I think it's incredibly important that you do send that letter about the tax cap, because if you look down the road, if you look 5-10 years down the road, what's going to happen is that 10% increase that these property owners are going to get, they're going to pass that down to the business owners. They're going to increase rent, and then that's going to drive out businesses. And then further on down the road, what's going to happen is that's going to lower the non-homestead revenue that we're receiving as a district, which then in turn is going to increase the homestead revenue that we're going to have to pay. So I do think that that's incredibly important. While right now, it looks like, we're getting a 0.2 decrease as homeowners, that would be incredibly short-sighted of us as a community to let that slide, because while it doesn't seem extremely detrimental to us now, down the road, that could come back and that can hurt us as homeowners and as a district. And now you're talking about really coming close to busting that cap. So again, I think he's the right guy to write the letter. And I think it's important that you do so.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Can I make a comment?
Yes.
One of the practices that every business official in the state of New York abides by or should abide by is you don't want shocks to the system. When I mean shocks, you don't want high positives or low negatives.
Right.
You don't want a -5%. You don't want a +5, because in circumstances that have happened, let's say in 1990 and 2008, where state aid was cut and taxes went down, you finally have, when you think you finally have, oh, this is great, you have a shock in the other direction. I can guarantee you this would happen every time. A shock in this direction to the business side, although it's only 25%, is exactly what you say, because that may prompt businesses to either close, raise rent, make it unaffordable, or otherwise. Eventually, yes, it will have a detrimental effect on the homestead tax rate, especially when you start seeing property owners say, you know what, I'm out, and then you have vacant lots, vacant properties, and vacant businesses. And that's not uncommon. It happened 14 years ago. We all knew that, especially when you've had consistent 1%, 2%, 0.8%, 2.3, and all of a sudden you go to 9.46. It really, realistically, it's, if you trend it over the last 4 or 6 years, it's a massive shock. It's a massive, massive shock.
But if you also trend it, you can see what their actual over 10 years, what their actual change in tax rate is.
Right.
Because sometimes it's high, all of it is
You're right.
percentage.
It's just the, going from something smooth to all of a sudden.
Yeah, it's
that,
the
bandwidth, the
instant
elasticity.
instead of, the town planning and the business owners planning for, oh, we got a tax decrease next year, we're gonna get an increase, let's plan for it.
Yeah, I mean, I want to kind of reinforce your point. Our brand is our downtown in the Bay. Like, that's our brand. Our downtown takes the hit. We're a very desirable place to live. Part of that's because of our school district. A lot of it is because of the charm of our downtown. If we have a lot of vacancies, like they saw in Patchogue 20 years ago, suddenly our property values and our main investment, our homes is at risk. It's, to me, it's about balance of the needs of everybody, especially because our downtown really is part of the charm. It's a big reason why people move here. So I appreciate, John, what you said about advocating for letter. I think it's important. It just strikes me as, in my perspective, just a very crude political move.
Yeah.
Okay, and it's short-sighted and it's gonna hurt us, because you hurt one part of us too much, you hurt all of us.
You know, some of the reason, and all of the people might not like saying, some of the reason that some of these stores close is because everybody does things online.
I know.
And
Totally.
that's that was a big problem. That's why we have more restaurants in Sable than a lot of, run-in stores that you can buy a t-shirt or whatever. It's really.
I think we need to give credit to our chamber. They work very hard to make sure.
They
Yeah, I was gonna
that
say, our
our
chamber,
stores are
listen,
full
and-
and that we're flourishing.
And some of these stores in town and businesses are struggling, not only they're struggling because of the supply chain problems, they're struggling because of, some of the, mail order to Amazon to be blunt, it's hurting them, and it's, we have a vibrant
Definitely.
downtown. Many of our businesses in town support our kids, support our community, particularly PTAs, the booster clubs of football, et cetera, and so forth. We go to them for so much. I think we could extend our gratitude and to them and say, listen, we're gonna do what we can to help limit some of the burden that was put upon you. And I think it's extremely important that we write a letter to the assessor's office and say, come on,
I
guys,
agree.
And keep
let's
in mind
work
that
together.
a very, very high percentage of the business owners are also Sable residents.
Yes.
They are our
So
community.
they're paying not only their homeowners taxes, they're also paying the business taxes.
There's not a lot of LLCs that have a lot of property ownership. It's a
No.
lot of people local.
Very local.
When I say there's a problem, I know quite a few people that don't all, only order things, they order their food, they do everything through Amazon. It's like, you don't go to the store anymore? No, well, they don't have it in the store. No, they don't, this is easier. It's not easier, it's really doing a number on our economic.
Okay,
Okay,
thank you.
whatever.
We had another speaker, I believe.
I'm Shanoa Ludwig. I have 2 students in the district, a middle schooler and a high schooler. I actually just wanted to speak about the board policy doc 4810, teaching about controversial issues.
What was that policy number?
4810.
4810. What everyone, especially the children, need right now is a break from controversy. The last almost 3 years has been nothing but controversy. Relationships, families, and communities have been divided and many permanently damaged by discussions on the most controversial topics that were initiated and fueled by politics and social media. Cases of diagnosed anxiety, clinical depression, and suicides have been a result of this controversy. So, in our first expected year of possible normalcy in school, why would any person, people, institution, or government want to even consider stirring up more controversy by creating policy that not only permits it, but encourages it? The way policy 4810 is currently written gives the Board of Education and the school staff, all of whom come bearing their own political and social biases, an awful lot of freedom to discuss anything they want with our kids. Here we have the schools overstepping again into the realm of parenting, which none of us asked you to do or need you to do. We know our job, now you need to stay in your lane and remember your job. Initiating this policy is inevitably going to add stress and distrust to an already stressful time, and controversial teaching will not benefit kids. There is no teacher, administrator, or BOE member that should be given free rein to stir up controversy with or between our children in school. No matter how seasoned and respected the school staff is, and no matter what age the children are, this is an absolute no. Before you decide to approve this policy or anything similar in Sayville schools, ask yourself, what is the real reason it's being pushed and why now? How is this establishing the groundwork for CRT, which many BOE members in this room claim Sable doesn't do and doesn't need? Who decided that children need to be exposed to controversial issues every day in order to become successful, well-rounded adults? Who has the power to define the items you listed in the proposal? For example, who gets to decide what controversial issues are of significant interest to this community? What are the major views, which you listed in there? And what if a student has an unpopular view? Why should only as many sides as possible be discussed? Why not all sides? Why is a teacher permitted to deal with controversial topics outside of the prescribed curriculum? And who is creating the prescribed curriculum? Schools need to stick to what they were supposed to teach: math, science, reading and writing, and history. Leave the parenting to us. The response to this new type of teaching should be no. No, you cannot discuss whatever you'd like with our kids. No, you cannot teach whatever you'd like to our kids. No, you cannot deliberately create curriculum that is controversial in nature. This policy is intended to do one thing: to give unchecked power to schools to teach our youth that they'll think like the majority, or the schools will try to make them.
Thank you. Anyone else would like to speak?
Was there a list of controversial?
Very, very vague,
Okay.
very vague. It covers any teaching in any curriculum.
I'm just going to speak to the policy. It doesn't do exactly what you're
I read it, it was
suggesting.
very vague.
It says, if you look closely, based on state curriculum. So it's about teaching social studies curriculum and teachers having the latitude to, and actually asking teachers to make sure that when they teach a topic in social studies, which is part of the state curriculum, that the teacher needs to consider sharing all the viewpoints equitably and without bias. So that's
Many
in
of
that
us do
policy.
not trust an individual to do.
Because the first question ultimately would be, who decides and
decides that?
defines what's a controversial issue?
Correct.
That would be the first
And
question.
am I okay with those controversial issues? And do I want you discussing that at school? This is what we talked
I
about.
think,
at
I
home.
think it could be black and white. I think it could be, if it falls within the realm of the curriculum, then it should be discussed. If it falls without of the realm of the curriculum.
I think that's why it specifically
And
says in the
curriculum has an
policy,
agenda
part of
right
the New
now.
York State curriculum.
And New York State curriculum is heading towards CRT. So we know this.
You have to contact the state.
We know this.
Okay, thank you for
To
your.
the website.
Correct.
Okay, I just lost my number, so just hold on one second, I apologize.
We're doing a first read. Yeah.
It's a first reading, so
It's not mean, it doesn't mean it's adopted in the policy, it just means you're doing a first read.
So I suggest, to the point you make, I think the board should take a closer look at
I
that
think the board
policy.
should look at the policy and read it very carefully and make sure that there are any questions. And I think at the next meeting, it'd be important to have an open discussion in the public about what you're reading and then make a determination if you want to read it and adopt the policy.
Think we have hard copies of that policy at our next
Yes.
board meeting, so we will.
If they're on the,
I know it's here, but they have a hard copy on our desk.
very good, yeah.
That would be good.
We have.
Listen, I think a thoughtful discussion is good. I think one thing I do want to say is I do trust our teachers. I grew up with half of them. And to be quite candid, like there's a wide variety of political predispositions amongst the people I grew up with. I think that's what a democracy is. So, but I'm glad we're going to discuss it publicly. That's the right course of action.
But to the point of the community member, I think, again, we should really take a close look.
Yeah.
And that's why I want to
Agree.
commend Mrs. Ludwig for bringing it up because it is important to talk about. And I
Yes.
think the fact that the whole purpose of having two readings is one, you've gotten it now, that we have between now and October, so whatever our next meeting is, to then have a public discussion, and then you can decide, after you ask questions, hear more from the community. And that's the whole point of the transparency aspect of it. And then vote on something that you feel you understand.
And if you have any addendums you want to make, I suggest you make it then, and so we could,
So
again,
tonight is the
we
first
go also, does of course, we have the first reading, we're gonna have a second, third, fourth reading. We don't have to adopt it at the next meeting, just for the sake of adopting it. So-
Well, it'll be on the agenda, and you can decide to vote.
My time is up, I'm sorry.
You can decide to vote against it and or have it rewritten and then have a first reading again
Yes.
of a policy. But you do have to have a policy, according to the New York State Board Association, related to controversial stuff. No one is suggesting, hey, everyone, let's bring up more controversial statements for kids so that everyone feels badly. We want our kids to feel the opposite of badly. We want them to feel great about who they are, where they come from, and what we're learning in school.
Thank you.
And to your point, the state curriculum delineates very clearly what is embedded in the curriculum. So again, like you said, I don't think the policy is looking to seek out additional controversy. I think US history and world history provides plenty of controversy as to current events. So
Very true.
I think we have our hands full with the controversy that exists. I don't think we need to generate any.
Correct.
Any other community members before I move on? All right. Thank you very much for your comments. Next item on agenda is authorizations 8.1. And I guess without objection. So I know we have to do a roll call vote on setting the tax rate. I just gotta find it on here. It's on, I had the number before,
9.22.
9.22.
Uh-huh.
Okay, could I call 8.1 and without objection to 9.21? A motion, please.
Motion.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. All right, 9.22, I need a motion, please.
Motion.
Second.
Discussion? I'm sorry, discussion?
No.
Do I have to read it? I do have to read it. Why they asked that question, I could have just asked for it. The whole thing? My gosh.
Oh, that's a, I guess maybe the first.
Okay, be it resolved, the Board of Education will authorize a total tax levy for the 2022-2023 year of $66,089,238 pursuant to the budget approved by voters on May 17, 2022, of which $61,883,336 is due to be levied for the Sable Union Free School District and $4,205,872,000 for Sable Public Library and Sable Historical Society. And be it further resolved that the appropriation of the Reserve Retirement Contribution, ERS, in the amount of $1,300,000. Appropriation from Reserves Retirement Contribution, TRS, in the amount of $850,000. Appropriation from the Unemployment Insurance Reserve in the amount of $50,000. Appropriation from the Reserve of Workers' Compensation in the amount of $320,000. An appropriation from the Reserve for Debt Service public library in the amount of $15,000, appropriation of reserve bonded debt in the amount of $44,078. Partial revenue resources for the funding of the 2022-23 board approved budget, and be a further resolved that the Board of Education will authorize appropriation from committed fund balance in the amount of $466,000 to reduce the health benefit cost, and be a further resolved that due to the town of Islip homestead tax assessment, the Board of Education authorized a signed appropriation of fund balance of $2,889,401 with no additional increases to the approved fund balance, projected, tax increase of 1.72 to negative 0.12 for the 2022-23 school year. A roll call vote, Dr. Birch. Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Kristen, yeah. Okay. Maureen?
Yes.
Yes. Motion carried. We just set the tax rate. Congratulations. Next item on the agenda is new business personnel. Can I call 10-1 to 10-4, please?
Motion.
Second,
Second.
discussion? All those in favor? Motion carried. New business other special education services 10-1 and 10-2. Motion, please.
11.
Okay, 11-1 and 11-2.
Motion.
Second,
Second.
discussion? All those in favor? Motion carried.
You have to do 7, you missed 7.
And Miss,
Minutes missed.
I'll go back to the minutes. Listen, I'll go back to the minutes, although we don't need them. Upcoming dates, hold on one second. Wait. October 1st, Sable Strides, Colomar Run Walk at Sable Middle School, 1:30 p.m. Rain date will be the 2nd. Board of Education meeting October 6th and Board of Education meeting October 13th. I'm going to return to adoption of minutes. I need a motion for recommend action minutes 7-1.
Motion.
Second.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor? Motion carried. Okay, I need a motion to go to executive session. Back to executive session.
Move this.
Second. Okay, well, thank you very much for coming. Have a great night and a great evening.